Hello, my name is Ruslan. Today I'll tell you a crazy story you won't forget.
I never thought a piece of paper could burn hotter than fire until I held that lottery ticket in my hand. The slip was small, flimsy, but my fingers trembled as if it carried lightning. $40 million, my numbers, my win. I stared at it so long the ink seemed to blur. My heart pounded so loudly I thought Mark, my husband of 11 years, would hear it from the living room, where he was shouting at the television. "Babe, you want a beer?" he called. I shoved the ticket between the pages of a cookbook and yelled back, "No, I'm fine." I wasn't fine. My chest felt like it was splitting open. My brain screamed that everything had just changed, but outside the kitchen door, life carried on as usual. Mark watching football, the dog sleeping by his chair, our cluttered house humming with the noise of ordinary life. But nothing would ever be ordinary again. That night, I lay in bed beside him, staring at the ceiling. He snored, one arm flung over the blanket. I looked at his face, the man I'd built a life with, who had shared my youth, my failures, my struggles. The man who had left me carrying most of the burden. Bills piled up while he spent weekends fishing. His temper snapped whenever I asked him to help more. I had dreams once: travel, art, my own business, but those had drowned in grocery lists and late fees. Now, in secret, I held a key out, 40 million reasons to walk away. The next morning, I made him pancakes, kissed him on the cheek, and packed his lunch for work. My hands moved automatically, but inside, I was planning, calculating, hiding. I researched like a criminal: how to hide lottery winnings from your spouse, how to protect assets in a divorce. I bought a prepaid phone and called a lawyer across town. We met in a diner where nobody knew me. She wore glasses and spoke in a low voice, as if the walls had ears. "You purchased the ticket during your marriage?" she asked. "Yes," I whispered. She sighed. "That complicates things. But if you file for divorce before claiming the prize, there's a chance you can argue it as separate property. Timing is everything. You'll need to move fast." Her words wrapped around my heart like chains. I nodded anyway. When I got home, Mark was on the couch, half asleep with a beer in hand. I looked at him and thought, he'll never understand. He'll waste it. He'll use it to keep me trapped. I told myself I deserved freedom more than fairness. 2 weeks later, I filed for divorce. No fault, the papers read, just irreconcilable differences. I said nothing about the ticket. Mark cried when I told him. He sat at the kitchen table, shoulders shaking, face in his hands. "Claire, after everything, just like that." I swallowed hard, forcing steel into my voice. "We're not happy, Mark. You know it." He looked up at me with red eyes. "We could try. We could fix it." But I had already decided. My mind was on bank accounts, wire transfers, the golden escape waiting for me. The judge signed the decree. Our marriage ended with the slam of a gavel. A week later, the Lottery Commission wired $40 million into a new account under my name only. I remember staring at the screen, my breath caught, my vision blurred. So many zeros it didn't feel real. I laughed until I cried. I had done it. I bought a new apartment, sleek, modern, filled with light. I ordered clothes I'd never dared to buy before. I told friends the divorce was for my peace of mind. They called me brave. Nobody knew the truth. For 3 months, I lived like I had outsmarted fate. Champagne in the evenings, yoga classes in the mornings. Freedom, sweet and intoxicating, but secrets rot, and mine was about to explode. It happened on a Tuesday. Mark still lived in the old house we once shared. One afternoon he picked up the mail, same as always: bills, coupons, junk. But buried in the stack was a letter addressed to me. He didn't think twice before opening it. We'd shared mail for over a decade. Habits don't die so quickly. Inside was a statement from the Lottery Commission. "Congratulations," it read. "Funds disbursed, $40 million. Date of disbursement, 1 week before the divorce petition was filed. Recipient, Claire Collins." The next morning, he walked into a lawyer's office. I first knew something was wrong when I got a certified letter. Inside were court papers, petition for judgment, failure to disclose marital assets. My stomach flipped. I called my lawyer immediately. She sounded grim. "Claire, if he can prove you purchased the ticket during the marriage, the court will see it as marital property. By hiding it, you exposed yourself to fraud claims." "Fraud," I whispered, my hands going cold. I just didn't want to share. I worked so hard. I deserved." She cut me off. The judge won't care about how you felt. They care about facts. When was the ticket bought? Were you married? Did you disclose it? The answers were daggers. Yes, yes, no. I hung up the phone and stared at my apartment walls, once symbols of my new life. Now they felt like a cell. The first hearing was brutal. Courtroom smell of old wood and judgment, and every seat creaked like it disapproved of me. I sat in a navy dress that suddenly felt like a costume, pretending to be composed while my insides twisted. Mark was there, across the aisle. He looked thinner, paler, but his jaw was set. He didn't look at me, not once. His lawyer did all the talking. Your Honor, Mrs. Collins deliberately concealed a marital asset. She purchased the winning lottery ticket during the marriage, then filed for divorce within days to avoid disclosure. This is fraud, plain and simple. My lawyer rose. Her voice was steady but weak against the storm. Your Honor, while the ticket was purchased during the marriage, Mrs. Collins had already been separated in spirit. The win was life-changing, yes, but it was also personal. She acted out of fear, not deceit. The judge's eyes bored into me. Mrs. Collins, did you or did you not purchase the ticket while still married? Yes, I whispered. Did you disclose this to your husband during the divorce proceedings? No. The room seemed to exhale. My lawyer's shoulders sagged. Over the following weeks, my life became a parade of depositions, affidavits, and sleepless nights. Mark's team unearthed everything. The date of purchase, the bank transfers, even the lawyer I'd paid in cash to advise me. They painted me as cold, calculating, ruthless. Mark, meanwhile, was cast as the betrayed husband. The man who had supported me through hard times, only to be discarded the moment fortune smiled. The press caught wind. Headlines whispered of the lottery divorce scandal. Paparazzi camped outside my building. Friends stopped returning my calls. I told myself I was still in control, that the worst-case scenario was splitting the money 50-50. 20 million was still more than enough, but deep down, I felt the ground shifting under my feet. One night, I dreamed I was back in the kitchen, holding the winning ticket. Only this time, the numbers melted off the paper, dripping like ink. Mark stood across from me, silent, his eyes hollow. I woke up screaming. I poured myself a glass of wine at 3 a.m. and whispered into the empty room, "It's mine. It was always mine." But even I didn't believe it anymore. The trial felt like standing naked in front of the world. Every morning, I walked into that courthouse with cameras clicking, reporters shouting questions I never answered. Did you hide the money, Claire? Do you feel guilty for betraying your husband? The words clung like mud. Inside, the courtroom was colder than any winter. Mark sat across from me, dressed in a plain suit, his face unreadable. He never once met my eyes. I searched for anger, for triumph, anything human, but all I saw was emptiness. His lawyer rose first. He spoke like a man wielding a blade. Your Honor, the facts are simple. Mrs. Collins won a $40 million lottery ticket while married. She filed for divorce less than a week later. She failed to disclose the winnings in the divorce proceedings. This is fraud. It violates not only the law, but the basic trust upon which marriage is built. He pointed to me like I was a defendant in a crime. She robbed my client not just of money, but of honesty. This court has the power to correct that injustice. My lawyer rose, her hands gripping the podium too tightly. Yes, the ticket was purchased during the marriage. Yes, it was not disclosed. But, Your Honor, Mrs. Collins was trapped in a failing relationship. She feared her husband would squander the money, or worse, use it to control her further. She acted in desperation, not malice. Her words floated like feathers in a hurricane. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Collins, please take the stand. My legs felt heavy as I walked. I sat, raised my right hand, swore the oath, and looked out at a room full of strangers waiting to dissect my soul. Did you purchase this ticket on March 3rd, while still legally married? Yes. Did you disclose it to your husband before filing for divorce? No. Did you believe the winnings would be yours alone? My throat tightened. I thought, I hoped. Answer the question. Yes. The word echoed in my skull like a gunshot. Mark's lawyer leaned closer, his voice sharp. Mrs. Collins, would you agree that withholding $40 million from your husband during divorce proceedings was dishonest? I wanted to scream that he didn't deserve it, that he had let me carry the weight of our marriage for years, that I only wanted freedom. Instead, I whispered, yes. Gasps rustled through the room. My lawyer buried her face in her notes. Mark never moved. The final day of the trial was a blur. Witnesses testified. The clerk who sold me the ticket, the bank official who processed the wire transfer. Each detail tightened the noose around my neck. When the judge finally spoke, the air froze. This court finds that Mrs. Collins deliberately concealed marital assets in violation of disclosure laws. Such conduct constitutes fraud upon the court and upon her spouse. Therefore, all winnings derived from the lottery ticket purchased during the marriage shall be awarded to Mr. Collins in full. The gavel struck wood. Sharp, final. $40 million, gone in a sentence. I didn't cry in front of them. I stood, walked out of the courtroom, and into a storm of flashing cameras. Claire, do you regret it? Claire, will you appeal? I pushed past them, my chest hollow, my hands shaking. In the parking lot, I saw Mark standing by his lawyer. For a brief moment, our eyes met. There was no victory in his gaze, no rage. Just a tired sadness, like a man who had lost something deeper than money. Then he turned away. I wanted to call out to him. To say, it wasn't just greed, it was fear. I was drowning, and the money felt like air, but the words died in my throat. That night, I returned to my apartment. My so-called new life and sat in the dark. The city lights blinked outside, cold and distant. I opened my laptop, logged into my bank account, and stared at the balance. 0. 40 million had vanished, like it was never mine. I laughed, a sharp, broken sound. I had gambled my marriage, gambled my freedom, gambled my soul and lost every bet. The silence after the storm was worse than the trial itself. Days bled into nights in my empty apartment. The clothes I once bought to celebrate my freedom hung like mocking ghosts in the closet. The champagne bottles on the counter looked ridiculous now, as if they belonged to someone else's life. I checked my bank account daily, even though I knew the answer. 0, 0, 0. It wasn't just the money, it was the meaning. For 3 months, I believed I had rewritten my story. That I had escaped the cage of a tired marriage and claimed a future that was mine alone. Now I was back where I started, only poorer in ways that couldn't be measured in dollars. The newspapers called me greedy, friends stopped answering my texts. Even my own family kept their distance. I was the woman who tried to cheat her husband, the villain in a cautionary tale. At night, I replayed every choice. Filing the papers, signing them with steady hands. Watching the millions appear in my account. Every decision had felt like strength then. Now they looked like cracks in a dam, water bursting through until nothing was left. One evening, unable to stand the silence, I drove past our old house. The curtains were new, the lawn trimmed, lights glowed warm through the windows. Mark was inside, standing in the kitchen, speaking on the phone. He laughed, an easy, unguarded laugh I hadn't heard in years. I wanted to hate him, to feel envy at the life he'd taken from me. But all I felt was a crushing weight of my own making. He hadn't destroyed me. I had. Weeks later, my lawyer called. You can appeal, she said. It's possible you could negotiate a settlement. I stared at the phone, my throat tight. What was left to fight for? Even if I clawed back a fraction, the stain would never fade. No, I whispered. I'm done. And for the first time, I felt the finality of it. Not just the money gone, not just the marriage over, but the truth. I had burned every bridge, and the ashes were mine alone. I tried to rebuild. I took a job at a bookstore, minimum wage, my fingers sorting paperbacks instead of bank statements. Customers never recognized me, or if they did, they pretended not to. I lived small rent, groceries, nothing else. At night, I sometimes dreamed of the ticket. In those dreams, I made a different choice. I ran into the living room, waving it in the air, shouting, "Mark, we won. We can fix everything." In those dreams, he hugged me, cried with me, and we built a new life together. But dreams dissolve in the morning, and the reality is that I chose secrecy over honesty, greed over partnership, fear over love. Months later, I saw Mark one last time. It was at a grocery store, of all places. He stood in the produce aisle, reaching for apples. He saw me, and for a heartbeat, the world went still. "Hi," I managed. He nodded. His voice was calm, steady, clear. We stood in silence, two people who had once shared a life now reduced to strangers among fruit baskets. "Finally," he said, "I never wanted the money as much as I wanted the truth." Then he walked away. I stood frozen, apples clutched in my hand, my chest hollow. That night, I sat by my window, staring at the city lights. For the first time, I understood. The ticket had never been a gift, it was a test, and I had failed. I thought money would buy me freedom. Instead, it revealed the chains I'd wrapped around myself. And the cruelest irony, the fortune that could have saved us destroyed us because I chose to hide it. So here's my question to you. If you discovered your partner had hidden millions during your marriage, would you fight in court to take it all back? Or would you walk away forever, knowing that the truth is worth more than the money?